What's the absolute best diet for gut health and longevity? And those two, of course, go together. If you've got a healthy gut, you're much more likely to live longer, and if you don't, you won't. And so they're pretty, you can't really disconnect gut health and longevity. They go together. So what is the best diet? A lot of times we hear Mediterranean diet, and it's not that it's far off, but there's been two studies. One was from the Human Microbiome Journal, and if the word microbiome is not familiar to you, that is the 60 to 100 trillion, by estimate, bacteria in your colon that make up your immune system and keep your hormones balanced, keep inflammation down. They basically keep you optimally healthy. So this is the Human Microbiome Journal, and they looked at gut microbiome diversity geographically. So it's very cool because diversity, you want a diverse number of good bacteria. Even if you only had all good bacteria, if they weren't diverse, it's just not good enough, because different bacteria do different things. So you want a very diverse microbiome, and we're going to talk about the diet that gets that done. Also, there was a journal, Frontiers in Public Health, and they looked at lifestyle factors. So we're going to talk about food, we're going to talk about lifestyle, even some supplements. So here we go. And I feel like you should look at this from the viewpoint of, what am I doing? What am I willing to add? What am I willing to take away? And just try to, gradiently get yourself into this better food, diet, lifestyle profile. And with each positive step you make, it's really going to impact your gut and therefore your health. This channel is dedicated to gut health. We talk a lot about acid reflux and hiatal hernia syndrome, and those are all about gut health, and that's why you get into the trouble with having hiatal hernia, having acid reflux. So everything that we can do to address that optimal diet and get us closer to that makes a huge difference. So let's jump in. As I said, the Mediterranean diet was not far off. Actually, the area of the world that did it best was Africa, with a few extra things that they could be doing better. But as in the US, we were the worst. Absolutely. We have a high number of organisms called firmicutes. It's an interesting word. And they, with a high firmicute level in your gut, you're more likely to be suffering from inflammation, chronic systemic inflammation, and you're just overall going to have poor metabolic health. And that's certainly what we see in our country. So what are we doing wrong? What are they doing right? So mostly the winners were from Asia, and so India, Turkey, Africa, Asia, and then Africa won, but Asia was doing a lot right. The diet was omnivorous, which is interesting. So it wasn't vegan, it wasn't carnivore, it was that middle road, which is something I've always felt was the right way to go. Meaning, it had meat, it had fruits, it had vegetables, it had nuts, it had seeds. It was omnivorous and diverse in the types of food coming in. High protein, so getting adequate to high protein. So what does that mean? A gram per lean body weight. So let's say you weighed 150 pounds, but you really should weigh 120. Then you're basing your protein needs on what you should weigh, not what you do weigh. Okay, so that's what they mean by kind of your lean body weight, what you're going for. And so that's the protein. Also lean protein, so you're achieving your lean body weight, but you're eating lean protein and not processed meats. So you're not sitting down to bologna, salami, etc. As I mentioned, the fruits and the veggies and the nuts and the seeds and the whole grains. And the key with the African diet is very pure, not processed, and also sustained locally. So all the meat and food, etc., fruits, vegetables that they get are grown locally. So they're not traveling a long distance to get to them. meaning they're fresher, they've got higher nutrient value. So that's something locally sourced is what the word I was looking for. So that was that. Now, okay, so we're an omnivore. We have nice variety in our diet. High polyphenols. Now, polyphenols are found in dark berries like blueberries, blackberries, and the polyphenols promote the growth of the good bacteria, so they're very important for overall gut health. Then phytonutrients, which is just, phyto just means plant, so that's getting that diverse fruits, veggies, of the expression we use with patients is eating the rainbow, meaning you want the reds and the yellows and the purples and the greens and yellows, I said yellow, red, tomato. You want that full, you want to sit down to a plate or sit down to a salad, or when you're going grocery shopping, your grocery cart should look pretty. There should be a lot of different colors in that because you're sort of buying the rainbow, and that's where you're getting the phytonutrients, and they're extremely important. Then fiber. This is something that we are terrible at in the United States. About 93%, I believe, of Americans don't get enough fiber. And fiber is critical for feeding the good bacteria in your gut so that they can ferment and do all the good things that they do. As I said, supporting immune system, hormone health, anti-inflammatory. So focusing on soluble fiber is a good way to go. If your gut is already inflamed, insoluble fiber can be a little harsh on it sometimes, and that's like a lot of raw vegetables. Sometimes new patients come in and they say, I can't do a salad. I know vegetables are good for me. They just kill my gut. And so if you go to the soluble, it's easier for your gut. It's easier on your gut. It's not so irritating, and then you can get to more insoluble later. But soluble is chia, flax, psyllium. If you're interested, I can send you my cracker recipe that's very, very, very easy to make, but has all of these soluble fibers in it, and it's fun. It's a cracker, you can make at home. And then monounsaturated fats like olive oil and avocado oil. Those are the only two oils I cook with, and they're very healthy for the gut. Spices is the part that actually Africa was missing, more found in India, Turkey. So spices are very anti-inflammatory. You've probably heard of curcumin or turmeric, but also cumin, coriander, cardamom, ginger, thyme, red pepper flakes. These are great spices that are very anti-inflammatory. Now, I know if you currently suffer with acid reflux, your esophagus is inflamed, red pepper flakes are not going to be your friend, and I appreciate that, but certainly ginger can be. There's a lot of those herbs I mentioned, thyme, coriander, that in, not making the food super spicy, but just getting those spices in your daily meal, daily dinner, lunch, can really be very anti-inflammatory for the gut. So that was something that Africa was missing, that more the Mediterranean climates and India, Asia were doing right. Okay, so what do we want to avoid? Alcohol turned out to be the biggest negative impact on gut permeability, meaning creating a leaky gut, and causing systemic, meaning body-wide inflammation. And that was the study from Frontiers in Public Health. So it was even worse than smoking. Now, nobody's saying smoking is good for you, but just to give you a perspective, alcohol had the biggest negative impact. So really want to eliminate, if not very much reduce your alcohol intake. Trans fats is another one, highly inflammatory. So you'll see on the label hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated, and you'll see that in things like peanut butter, margarine, shortening. Just look for if you see the word hydrogenated, just put it back on the shelf. Don't purchase it. Very bad. Now, also polysorbate 80 and 20. These are emulsifiers, so they prevent food that has a very long shelf life, so that, of course, that's its first problem, from sort of separating. So you see it in ice cream, baked goods, but even gum has polysorbate in it. So just look for that word, and again, don't buy it if that's one of the ingredients. On a supplement level, we have creatine. Now, creatine is being talked about a lot, mostly for building muscle, and it does do that. Athletes use it, but it also feeds the cells of your gut and creates a healthy gut lining. So very, very helpful. 1.5 grams to 5 grams. Some people, when they get up to the higher, over like 3, they'll get some water retention. I take 5 grams. I've never had any issue with that, so I think it's you know, personal as far as who feels that or who doesn't. But creatine is definitely something worth trying. I would stay away from the gummies. They have all these, you know, cute, flavorful. The powder I use just tastes like nothing, and I just put it in water, and it really is tasteless. So very easy to administer. Also collagen or bone broth. So collagen about 5 grams, or a serving of bone broth. Also very protective for the gut barrier. And when we're talking about the ideal health we're trying to achieve, we're looking at your gut barrier being restored and not being permeable, not being too leaky. Because when it's leaky, you know, you have to think of the gut as being outside your body. So from your mouth to your anus is one tube that's not, I mean, it's obviously not hanging outside your body. It's internal, but it's designed to be outside your bloodstream until it allows something to pass outside of it. So when you have that leaky gut, you're allowing toxins and bad organisms to leave the protective barrier of the gut, because the gut should keep the bad guys inside, and then you just sort of poop them out the other end, and it's like you're not allowed to enter my hallowed halls of this body. But when you have lost that gut, the integrity of your gut lining, now things pass through too easily, and you get the systemic inflammation, and you've overwhelmed your immune system, leading to all the diseases you're trying to avoid, from diabetes, heart disease, dementia, autoimmune disease, obesity, you name it, that's what happens. So everything we can do to eat in this fashion that I'm describing to keep that gut integrity intact is going to go a long, long way for you to feel better. And then lifestyle-wise, we're going to finish up with this, intermittent fasting. Now, I don't like to go beyond 12 to 14 hours. If it's 14 and a half, okay, maybe it's 15, but you don't want to go much beyond 14 based on research, hard on the gallbladder, hard on the heart. And so 14 hours is great overnight, which is very easy to do. You know, you have dinner at 7 o'clock. The next morning, what if, you know, you wake up at 7, you just postpone your breakfast for an hour or two, and bam, you're at 14 hours. So pretty easy. And also then, when you have your breakfast, and I am a proponent of breakfast, is you have your breakfast and then you don't eat anything till lunch. You know, you have a good 4 hours to lunch, and then you have another 4 hours to dinner, and you can sip tea, things that are non-caloric, but you're really taking a break, which allows your body to cleanse, heal, repair. Certainly the 12 to 14 hours is going to do the best job of that. But if you give your body like a 4-hour break between meals, there's a lot of cleansing and detoxifying that happens, and it's very protective again for the gut. Last but not least, exercise. Mobility is very important for gut health, and between resistance training, aerobics, a combination. Resistance training is really important though. You really want to maintain muscle mass. So if you're a runner, that's fine, but then you got to get some resistance training, some weight training in there, and for ideal overall health. Okay, so that was it in a nutshell, and I'm going to have a very clear description of all of this in the video. Description, so that you can kind of check off what you're doing, what you want to add, and see how you do with all of that. And I appreciate you. If you enjoy the content on this channel, please consider subscribing, trying to increase our subscribers so that more people can see this content. Give it a thumbs up, share it with somebody else, and we'll talk soon.